And of course, Tim said denial is a river in Egypt. You're a liar. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your girl, Christiana Faith, and today we are here to talk about Love is Blind DC Season 7, The Reunion. Boy, oh boy, am I so happy to move on from this show because, y'all, I realized I got way too emotionally invested, especially with this whole Tyler and Ashley situation that we're about to hit on right now. And that's why I did not upload videos for episodes 11 and 12 because I was so pissed with this season. I was just so over it. And I was like, guys, if I would have came on camera with the energy that I had, I would have looked crazy as hell. You would have been like, girl, do you know these people in real life? Like, why are you doing too much, you know? But of course, the reunion starts with Nick and Vanessa being super corny, but it was also like kind of funny as well. But the main thing that they started off with was the situation with Tyler, Ashley, are you a sperm donor or are these your kids? Da 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 da. And we got answers. Basically, Tyler and Ashley said that Ashley knew about everything from the beginning. They talked off camera about the whole situation and they both decided to get on camera and lie about certain things to protect the children. Tyler referred to his children because I'm going to say those are his kids. He referred to his children as those kids and that family. That's a situation that I got a part of to try to help out a friend that was left in a divorce, high and dry. Basically, no accountability whatsoever. In my opinion, still lying. And as far as Ashley, she basically said, y'all, do not insult my intelligence. Who knows more, me or social media? I knew everything from the beginning. And when she said that, I was like, girl, you know what? If you like it, you deserve it. I'm not going to say I love it because I don't love it. I don't understand how you can want to be with someone that abandons their children and has the type of record that Tyler has. And you're really standing on business that this is your man, your man, your man. But like I said, if Ashley is okay with this situation, to me personally, it just speaks to the type of woman that she is. It speaks to her character. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But in my previous videos, I was giving Ashley a lot of grace about this situation. I was like, oh, maybe she doesn't know. But when she says she knew and she's not dumb, and for us to insinuate that she didn't know was very insulting, I was like, okay, so y'all, she's telling y'all she's that girl. She's that type of woman that will do anything to be in a marriage. And according to her, she said this was a once in a lifetime type of love. And this whole situation was worth the risk. And she's standing 10 toes down behind her man. And they're going to create a whole new family. Towards the end of the reunion, we get to see a montage of them living in marital bliss within like the year that, you know, everything was going on. And of course, Tyler was not with those kids, according to the baby mama, with all of the posts that she released. But he had time to be with Ashley and matching pajamas, and the dog was in matching pajamas as well. I think production was very messy and intentional with also including that, knowing everything that we do know with pictures like this of Tyler being in matching pajamas with his children that he just refers to as those kids. And another thing that Tyler mentioned was that, oh, people are saying, oh, well, what about the pictures? And he said, well, he dresses up and he's around all of his friends, families, kids like that. And I'm just like, okay. So Nick and Vanessa, they did not push the situation. Nobody really said anything about the situation. Sorry, I had to pause. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, basically nobody really pressed the situation. At the end of this segment, we just had to accept that it's none of our business. They don't owe us anything. And the only thing Tyler owes to Ashley is basically the truth, which he already gave her, and she accepted the truth. And Ashley confirmed that she's standing 10 toes down besides her man. She loves him. And that Tyler was just a good man who got a part of a hard situation and he didn't know how to pull back out of it. And you know, my whole thing with this whole situation is that the Love is Blind producers, they know how to pull receipts, right? So last season when Trevor was pressed about his whole situation, about the whole text message thing, I forgot what that was all about, but they know how to pull receipts that go viral on the internet and address it. And I find it very funny with all of the information that was coming out prior to the reunion being filmed, nothing was pulled, nothing was specified, nothing was being addressed. Like, oh, but like, what about these messages? What about this? What about that? Nothing was like addressed. We just had to accept this is the truth. This is our truth. And going forward, mind y'all damn business. And you know what? Going forward, I will mind my business only because I'm going to forget about this whole situation within the next few weeks, because that's how like social media works. So yeah, good riddance to Tyler and Ashley. They're both weird, in my opinion. Moving on. So then next, we get into the segment about Marissa and Ramses, which I was going to make a whole video on that situation. But once again, too emotionally involved. Okay. But basically, we saw Marissa break down on TV during the breakup between her and Ramses. And when I first watched it, I felt so bad for Marissa, because I was like, I know how it feels to be that down bad over a man and begging. Not necessarily in the same situation, of course, but I know like back in my day, I think when I was around 20, maybe 19, something like that, when I was dating someone and, you know, they were trying to break up with me. And I was like, absolutely not. You will not break up with me. Like, we're staying together. Like, I was a little delulu. But once again, that was like 1920. I did not see Marissa and Ramses working all the way to the end. I think I did mention that in one of my videos. So I really wasn't surprised that he broke up with her. I was just surprised at how shocked Marissa was, because I'm like, girl, y'all was clearly not meshing on like a lot of fundamental things. We saw them keep going back and forth about the military situation. At one point, we saw them going back and forth about like the condom situation, about, you know, what about if she's sick and like, you know, they can't do, you know, sexy things and stuff like that. I'm just like, and children was also brought up. They just didn't seem to click on a lot of things for me. And I was like, I don't really see how this is going to work if this person wants this and this person wants that. And I didn't necessarily look at them as like, oh, these people are just bad people. I'm just like, these are just two people that are just not for each other, you know? And at the reunion a year later, Marissa is still so heartbroken. Y'all, she was about to break down on camera again. And I'm like, wow, like she is really still going through it. So Ramses did address why it took him so long to break up with Marissa. For him, he said that up until that point, he didn't realize that their energies being a big deal was going to be the main breaking point for him, until one day he woke up and smelled the roses and realized that if he was to marry Marissa, this would be his constant life, like them just not meshing with their energies. And he realized he didn't want to marry someone like that and be in a long-term relationship like that. And he also took accountability for not breaking it off sooner, which I really loved. In this situation, once again, seeing it like at the reunion, closing this chapter between them, I still don't fault Ramses for breaking up with Marissa, because the opposite of that would be him marrying someone that he knew deep down he should not be marrying. So I'm like, it's a good thing he actually did break it off. Now, the timeline of him breaking it off, yes, that absolutely sucked. But I can also understand, like, sometimes you just don't know until like you're in the thick of the situation, like up until like, damn, I actually don't want to go through with this, especially with the process like Love is Blind. Now, if this was in like normal circumstances in the real world, I would totally be like, well, like, boy, you serious? Like, but I'm just like, in this experiment, I do kind of give people grace with like how they make their decisions and stuff, because apparently it's a lot going on behind the scenes, child. It's a lot with the filming and all those things. So I'm like, I don't fault him too much for that. Was he wrong? Yes. Super glad he took accountability. But at the same time, I'm just like, they just didn't mesh, and it's good that they did not end up together. For me, even at the reunion, Marissa was still like how she didn't get a say in the breakup. And I'm just like, I don't know what's not clicking upstairs for Marissa. Like, girl, that's not how a breakup works. If somebody wants to just break up with you and they say this is the reason, sometimes we don't get a say. A lot of times we don't get a say. You don't need a say. He told you, you guys are not a match. He said your energies were completely different. Why do you still need to have a say? I feel like maybe Marissa's say would have been, oh, I can change this about myself. I can change that about myself, which we already saw on camera. I feel like a lot of the conversations that we saw, it was Marissa willing to change who she was. I don't think Marissa fully understood who she was during like that time period of the show, especially because she was so wishy-washy even with like the military situation. Because I'm like, how do you go from, oh, I was in the military to now I don't support the military, but like what if I want to go back one day? Like very wishy-washy. How do you date people on the left? How do you date people on the right? Nothing matters. So you only date people for who they are. Very wishy-washy. And I said that in the beginning about Marissa, and I said I don't think it will work simply because she is very wishy-washy. And even at the reunion, it was still giving wishy-washy. And Marissa did mention that she was willing to make a lot of concessions. She was willing to change herself. And she also did mention that they talked about Marissa's chronic illness in the pod. So I'm like, I guess they did talk about certain things. But once again, I feel like once you get into this experiment in the real world, things are drastically different when you are hit with, you have to go to the altar and marry this person in 4 weeks. But back to my original point with Marissa being wishy-washy, in this interview, she did mention that a few months after the breakup, she was talking to Ramses, I guess, on the phone for 7 to 8 hours. And she thought there was a chance that they would get back together. So she asked him, hey, like, can we get back together? And Ramses said no. And she was like completely shocked. And I'm just like, Marissa, what is going on? But yeah, just to close up this chapter with Marissa and Ramses, I don't think either one of them are like horrible people. Of course, I think they were both very vulnerable on this show, and they were not compatible at all. I'm actually really glad Ramses broke it off, because Marissa most definitely would have married him and would have changed herself. And I don't think that's the type of relationship that you should want to be in. I feel like Marissa is like so beautiful, and like her energy that she has, I feel like there's somebody out there for her that will completely match her energy or accept her for who she is. So, I totally wish them the best, of course. And they did clarify the whole situation about the birth control. Ramses was like, he wasn't trying to force her about getting on birth control. It was actually a nuanced conversation. They just didn't show the whole thing on camera. And I'm like, of course, why would they show the whole thing on camera? But moving on to Hannah and Nick. Hannah let us know in 5 different ways that she's very direct, she's very to the point, and sometimes she can be a bitch, and she clearly didn't learn anything from this experience. Hannah will always be a mean girl. She stood 10 toes down on everything that she said about Nick and just blamed it on her being a very direct person. And once again, no accountability whatsoever, because I'm like, girl, this is not about you being a direct person. This is about you being a mean and nasty person, being a bully, saying very hurtful things, having like hurtful conversations on camera about Nick. Like, it just made no sense to me. But of course, she wasn't pressed too much about her actions. Funny enough, this segment turned into the girls low-key pressing Nick for calling Hannah ugly. And of course, Nick and Vanessa, they're asking Nick about how he feels. And Nick is just like, oh, well, she's entitled to her own opinion, but I respect her, blah, 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 no bad blood. And then Marissa ends up whispering something in Hannah's ear. And then this started the whole thing about how Nick only came on the show for fame, y'all, and how he was on Instagram liking hate comments about Hannah, and how Hannah and her friends found a note of Nick's. I guess, I don't know. I don't remember where they found this note, child. It had to be like in his place or something like that. But how they found a note that Nick wrote. And on this note, it was basically like a list that Nick said, oh, he wants to be super fit. He wants to sell 2 homes. And the third one was he wants to be the most famous person on Love is Blind. And basically, Hannah was like, when she found that note, she knew that Nick was disingenuous. And I'm assuming she found that note like earlier on in the experiment. And for me, I didn't get the purpose. Like, okay, he wrote the note. A lot of the girls were just like, oh, because of that note, you're disingenuous. That's a slap in the face to the people that came here for love. Like, everybody was really trying to make it seem like, oh, you're fake. You just did all this just to be on TV. And for me, I'm just like, so be for real. It's season 7. Y'all, you telling me you honestly came on this show not knowing that there's a huge chance that you will pop off on social media? Like, guys, it comes with the territory, good or bad. Clearly, look at Hannah. She's thriving online, okay? good or bad. If people like you, they're gonna like you and you're gonna pop off. So I just think it was very disingenuous of all of them to be like, oh no, we would never, and you know, we look at you differently. The whole thing with Nick versus the girls was mostly that the girls was like, Nick was saying stuff behind the scenes about Hannah, about how she looked, and how he was saying these things to the other guys. And the main one that was trying to drive this thing down was Marissa. Marissa went hard against Nick. She had a lot of pent up energy while Hannah is just sitting back letting her go off. She was going, you would have thought that Marissa was in a relationship with Nick and it wasn't Hannah. I'm like, girl, why are you defending Hannah so hard? I will be the first one, well, not the first one, there are many people saying this. Nick clearly not ready for marriage. Nick still lived at home and was still doing things that did not show that he was ready for marriage, like taking out the cat in the morning, knowing how to boil pasta, like all of the things. I think Nick was very immature. I don't think Nick actually was ready for marriage. I do not think Nick actually liked Hannah, and he stayed on the show to drag out the process the same way Hannah did. Now, where they differ is that Hannah, Miss I'm just so direct, she let her directness mess her up, and she portrayed herself as a raging bitch, which she said herself on the reunion. She said it multiple times that she knows that she can be that way. So I feel like she's mad that she was completely authentically herself, and Nick was just kind of, you know, being mindful of the fact that he's on TV, you know, so there's just certain things he's not going to do. I don't follow him for that. And I think two things can be true at the same time. I definitely feel like he said those comments about her looks, whatever he said, which we couldn't even really decide if he said it or not, because Garrett was trying to stick up for Hannah and be like, oh, well, things were said, but then again, I don't remember that conversation. So I'm like, did he say it? Did he not say it? Nick said that he said he was underwhelmed at the reveal. Okay, cool. Once again, if both of you felt this way at the beginning about each other, why did you both drag it on for so long? That's my thing. And I'm like, Hannah, you just should have been more mindful of who you were on camera and rolled it back. But going forward, it was a whole lot of back and forth between Marissa and Nick. Garrett was basically like, can we move on from this conversation, child? This is beneath me, please. Nick was like, well, if she really felt like I was a horrible person, why was she trying to contact me a month later? And Marissa was like, well, because she was having feelings. She was insecure. I effed that man like a month after too. I'm like, Marissa, girl, I hope you are still in therapy, because... and then mind you, Ramses is just like... And I'm like, Marissa, with your behavior, energy's a way off. You're chaotic, sis. You're very much chaotic. I could see why Ramses broke it off the way he did, because he was like, oh, hell no. This is not the life I want for myself. Moving on to Leo and Britney. It is so funny how Leo was dragged in the beginning, but now Leo is actually probably the most liked out of everybody this season. But they did talk about, you know, them being good friends and how they went to Miami and had a good old time. And how they realized that they're just better off as friends. And they did try to date a few weeks after the big reveal. Britney did mention that on camera, she wasn't uncomfortable because Leo was all over her. She was uncomfortable because of the overwhelming... she was uncomfortable because of the overwhelming experience and like all of the cameras. And she said she felt the most comfortable in Leo's arms. You know how she wished he would have kissed her more to shut her up. And she was like, oh my gosh, it was so cringe and embarrassing to watch. So I thought that was like so funny just to add. But I would not be surprised to see them on Perfect Match. Ugh. And then we segue into this whole sleep test situation with Steven and Monica, child, which once again, we got no answers. Steven is standing 10 toes down on business that he still don't remember them text messages, child. And he did go to a sleep test. They provided us with a picture. I want to know where he went that accepted him drunk, because they probably shouldn't be in business. It still does not make sense to me. But of course, Monica was holding his feet to the fire. She still seemed very angry about the situation. Steven was definitely playing the victim a lot. He was like, oh, why should I explain myself? Why should I tell my side of the story? Nobody wants to hear what I have to say a year later, da 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 da, especially after we squashed it. It was giving a whole lot of woe is me. I'm like, bro, this is the reunion. This is what we're here for, to rehash things that happened a year ago. Okay. And then Steven said he's never met the woman before. He's only known her through IG, but then he's also known her for a number of years. And I'm just like, Steven, bye. Just a hot mess, just a liar. Like, I'm just like, Steven. And next, I want to talk about Alex and Tim. Okay, so in my previous video, I said that I wasn't on Alex's side or Tim's side and how they were both wrong. But after watching the reunion and seeing some stuff on social media, I'm like, Tim, I think you're the problem, bud. I think you're the problem, but let me tell you why. So at the reunion, Alex says the reason that they had that big dispute in Cabo was because she needed space from him because she was feeling homesick. She missed her dad and he wasn't willing to give her space. And then that resulted in a verbal disagreement. And this verbal disagreement was so big, it had Tim yelling, and Alex was trying to stop production from seeing this going on. And in the midst of that, she covered his mouth. They did address that it was not physical assault. Both of them addressed that. So I was like, yeah, that's good. And she said the belittling word that she called him was a little bitch. And Tim's version of events is that she left the big gathering. He went to go follow her to see what's wrong. She's laying down on the floor crying. So he's confused about like why his fiance is crying on the floor and she's not saying anything. So he's trying to be there for her, even though she said she did need space. He was still trying to be there for her. And then it turned into that verbal disagreement because I guess she was pulling away as he was going forward. And this whole segment was so much back and forth, you guys. Alex said, no, you did this. Tim said, no, you did this. But why did you say this? But why did you do that? The only thing that I can say about this whole thing without diving too deep into it, because it was a lot of back and forth, you guys. From what I'm seeing on the reunion, Tim lacks accountability. I didn't hear anywhere in this conversation where he took accountability for anything that he did. It was just, Alex did this, Alex did that. How could you do this to me? How could you treat me this way? How could you belittle me like that? I feel attacked. Why are you coming at me like that? And I'm like, unless they cut out a lot of stuff that we just did not see, I didn't view Alex speaking up for herself as attacking him. I saw it as something like somebody's actually just saying her version of events. She wasn't yelling. I'm just like, I don't see how this is an attack. Tim's energy just gave me that he wants a Stepford wife. If you do not do things the way he says it, when you should do it, how you should do it, and all those things, he's going to go off on you and he's just going to instantly write you off as not good enough and he's going to belittle you. And they addressed Napgate. Alex said that she really needed the nap because she met with the parents, of course, for the 4 hours. And she was going to be working later that evening from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. So she really just wanted an hour of sleep to get rest. And I was like, okay, that is totally different from, what we saw in the episodes. And if that's the case, I 100% agree. I don't understand why Tim wouldn't give her the grace to have at least an hour nap, knowing the magnitude of the situation. Homegirl got to work overnight. It's not like she just went to sleep just to go to sleep. Like, that's how it was portrayed on the screen. So once again, I just feel like if you don't do what Tim says, he's not gonna like it and he's just gonna write it off as, oh, you don't love me, you're not loving me the way I need you to. There's no grace on Tim's side. And Alex did mention that she was upset while meeting Tim's parents because the day before, which is the day after they met Alex's parents, Tim told her that he had doubts. And if you guys don't remember, Tim had this lovely sit down with her father and read her this beautiful note and asked him for his blessing to marry Alex, and then proceeded the next day to tell her that he had doubts about them. And then we see on camera, we see Alex looking a little uncomfortable. And I did mention that in my video. I was like, Alex looks like a little off, like she doesn't want to be there. And she said that is why. And of course, Tim said, denial is a river in Egypt. You're a liar. Tim said absolutely not true. Once again, not taking any accountability. And they just kept going back and forth, you guys, to the point where Vanessa had to be like, okay, listen, we understand, you guys have your versions of events, but I think you guys need to talk in private behind the scenes. Alex mentioned that they haven't talked since that day, child. Tim said, we ain't got nothing to talk about. And I'm like, yeah, can we move on? Because I'm over it. They are horrible communicators. Clearly, both of them don't know how to communicate with each other. But I am leaning more so to the side of Tim was just being very vindictive during this experiment. And he was looking for a reason to break up with Alex because she didn't fit the mold for him. I don't think that's the proper mindset that you should have going into an experiment like this. And hopefully Tim loosens the reins for his future wife. Or I don't really see it working with anyone long term. So then next we get into Taylor and Garrett. Of course, they're happily married. Garrett went through like a whole glow up, you guys. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of glow ups this season. I love to see it. And basically they mentioned that obviously they're still together. Taylor's parents was there and how they decided to not relocate to San Francisco because they did try and they realized it was way too much for Garrett and he just, it just wasn't a vibe. So they compromised on moving back to DC. I don't have too much to say about Taylor and Garrett other than I do think they're a beautiful couple. I think they took the experiment like so serious the way that you are supposed to. And I hope it does work out with them compromising on moving to DC. And hopefully there's no issues surrounding that. But I guess we just won't know and we'll just have to wait and see. And then yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. After that, we get to see some old contestants from the previous seasons. Jessica from season 1 came through with her new husband and her baby. Bliss and Zach were there with their new baby. And I was like, oh my gosh. You guys remember Bliss and Zach? Like, I feel like Bliss and Zach was the first time we saw someone double back in a season and bring back somebody from the pods that they dumped for someone else. And I was rooting for Bliss and Zach from the beginning. And I think Bliss giving Zach another chance was like one of the rare moments where it's like, when you're the second option, it works because it was totally different. It was totally different. I wish I was on YouTube to review that season, but I'm just so happy for Bliss and Zach. Our girl AD was there looking like body. Okay, AD looks so beautiful. I'm such a fangirl of AD. Marshall was also there. I love Marshall and his facial expressions. And yeah, that was the reunion. We saw some people that will be on season 8, which they said is February 18th, which I already told you guys. The show comes out in October and February. So let's get prepared for the mess in February. But yes, you guys, comment down below your thoughts on Love is Blind season 7 DC. We are officially done. We're moving on to other content. I will be doing lots of commentary videos. Let me know down below if you want me to review Love is Blind Habibi because I did watch it. And I have a lot of thoughts, okay? The girl, they don't mess with broke ninjas, all right? I have a lot of thoughts. I love that show. So let me know if you guys would like me to review it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.